has been charming today.
Beautiful, yeah. Most of the country's been bathed in beautiful sunshine for the last few days.
But being British, we're still finding something to moan about.
In Bournemouth, they've got the hump with the Met Office because they didn't predict the sunny bank holiday Bournemouth, in fact, got.
So, fewer people descended on the place, and they say they're way out of pockets.
Here's the man who calls himself the undercover economist, Tim Harford, on the megabucks riding on the weather, the forecasters forecast.
Who'd be a British weather forecaster? We take them for granted when they get it right and moan when the weather doesn't do as it's told. A wayward weatherman is a nuisance, even if he just leaves you short of a brolly.
And sometimes the difference between putting this on the screen and this could be millions of pounds. So Mark, what happened last Bank Holiday Monday?
Well, what happened was we had an absolutely appalling weather forecast for the day, and that made everybody do their DIY chores, all the things around the house. The last thing they want to do is come to a seaside resort.
And what was the weather like?
It was absolutely glorious, just like today.
What difference did that make to your visitor numbers?
Well, it decimated the numbers, as you'd imagine, and whereas normally we'd expect to have over 100,000 people here on the 7 miles of seafront, we were down to just around 75,000 people. And so, in total, that cost over £1 million just from that single day's lost business.
Why do you think the Met Office got things wrong?
Well, I think there is a little bit of the Michael Fish effect, that they clearly don't want to get it wrong, otherwise it's very embarrassing.
Apparently a woman rang the BBC and said she heard that there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't.
But the other side of that is if they're too cautious about it, then businesses suffer badly.
So how accurate are weather forecasts these days? And how are they made?
We run a computerised model that simulates the atmosphere. We collect observations from around the world, from aircraft, from satellites, and also from observing stations on the ground. And we use all that information and bring it together to give our best estimate of what the forecast is likely to be.
Some people have complained that you deliberately provide gloomy forecasts just in case you get caught out.
That's really not the case at all. With all our forecasts, we try to be as objective as possible. And we can say that 6 out of 7 of our forecasts are right. So again, if you extrapolate that value at a decent summer for tourism alone, you can see that the value that we bring to the economy is pretty significant.
This goes a lot deeper than ice cream makers praying for sun and cinema managers clamouring for rain. So many businesses are dependent on the weather, private companies are making money from forecasting.
Why are people willing to pay so much money for an accurate forecast?
30% of industry in the UK is weather sensitive in one way or another, so there's an awful lot of money to be made if you get accurate information. Let's take gritting the roads, for example. There's big problems if you get it wrong. If you say the roads are going to freeze with ice and snow and they don't, it costs a local authority a lot of money. On the other hand, if the temperature is quite a bit lower than you suggest, there can be accidents, there can even be fatalities.
Do you feel a big sense of responsibility?
There can be some very stressful moments during the winter, especially during difficult snow and ice weather. The weather is forecasting the future. We don't always get it 100% right, so you do take it home with you, and it can be quite stressful at times.
One independent study put the value of public weather forecasting alone at £650 million. So whether they're right or they're wrong, weather forecasts matter.
The undercover economist is with us. I think Bournemouth surely protests too much because it worked against them this weekend, the bank holiday weekend, but in the past, presumably, there's been a forecast of brilliant weather, then it's come down cats and dogs and everyone's been trapped there anyway.
So they should maybe get a mole into the Met Office and put in a good word for Bournemouth.
Yeah, but what they've lost on the swings, they've gained on the roundabouts on other occasions.
Well, what they would say... You're a suspicious man. You're a suspicious man. What they would say is... they don't want people to come to Bournemouth and it to rain on them and then have a miserable time. They'll make money on the one day, but then people won't come back.
It's not the only place, though, that's taken on the Met Office either, is it?
No, Carbridge in Scotland has been complaining. They had a different complaint. They reckon that... And they've got no figures to back this up as far as I can work out, but they reckon they've got a microclimate, so it's always nice in Carbridge and it's always rotten everywhere else. So the weather forecast never picks it up. That's what they say anyway.
Maybe our businesses just need to be more prepared and towns need to be more prepared, because I know back home we could have 4 seasons in one day and no one can predict that, so...
Well, I mean, it's nice to be prepared, but if you think about... There's only so much space on the supermarket shelves. You've got supermarkets who might be taking weather forecasts. They've only got a few days' notice. They might want to get ice cream, barbecue meats on the shelves in one part of the country. They might want to get soup and bread on the shelves in another part of the country. It's a difficult task.
I mean, as an economist of some renown, do you have any information on the impact the weather has on sales of pickled onions? Because that's something Barrett's obviously...
No idea whatsoever, sorry.
What about you? You must have done your research. What's your long-range forecast for your onion pickling business?
Oh, great. Absolutely great.
It's great.
And
Whatever the weather.
And the pickled eggs and the shallots and the gherkins that are coming up later in the year. But the thing is, for some incredible reason, I really do not understand, people mainly eat pickled onions at Christmas time, you know, with the cold turkey on Boxing Day. But why don't they eat them in the summer with cold meats and
We're going to
salads?
start a campaign here. And
I'm with
very
you.
important
I'm with you.
question. Tim, why not people eat pickled onions in the summer? That's just subject. The title, in fact, of your next book.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You get a good foreword from Barry
lad.
Norman.
Indeed you will.
OK, I'll sign you up.
Excellent.
Thank you, Tim.
Tim, thanks very much.